Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm going to try to sum up my battle with Candida in as short a story as possible. In my early 20s, I had a lot of stress happening for a couple of years, and the way my body responded was I got tonsillitis. Ended up getting chronic tonsillitis, I don't know, every month for 2 years. So I went on a lot of antibiotics for 2 straight years. Different antibiotics, because some of them wouldn't work after a while. And at the time I was also on pill birth control and had been on that for, 8 years or something. So that combination is what I think started my Candida problems. So not knowing that, I just went along with my normal life. Stopped getting sick, moved away, sort of changed my life. And about 10 or 12 years later, my digestion had slowly started sort of getting bad over those 12 years. And I became lactose intolerant, and I thought, it's normal, it happens to a lot of people. And then I just sort of had an upset stomach all the time after eating, or I would feel like really bloated and uncomfortable, crampy. And again, I just thought, it's not a thing that I ate or whatever. And then I remember one day I was talking to a friend, and I kind of referenced, how you feel terrible after you eat food. And my friend was like, no, I feel great after I eat. And I turned to some other friends and said, do you all feel great after you eat a meal? And all of them said, yeah. And that kind of blew my mind. I just thought that eating meant feeling terrible afterward for a while. So I sort of started started going to a naturopath and trying to figure out, how come my digestion is so finicky? Did that for maybe a year or two, trying different Chinese herbs and whatnot. I went to some Western doctors as well to try to, Western medicine doctors to say, hey, here are all the things that happen to me when I eat food. Something must be wrong. Got tests. All of them said it's just stress. And they just sent me packets, basically. So I continued with the naturopath that whole time. Sort of trying limited diets, and more Chinese medicines, and none of it really made a difference. And then in the summer of 2018, things went really, really badly. Things went downhill very quickly. I started getting really extreme symptoms and health issues that were just, it was very clear that something else was going on. This is the list of symptoms. I kept a list at the time because I was sure something was very wrong with me. Over the course of that summer, some of the symptoms that I had, just to give an idea: dizziness. I was dizzy all the time. If I closed my eyes, I would almost fall over. Reoccurring ear infections. I had ear infections every month for the entire summer. At one point, I had ear infections in both ears and a sinus infection, sinusitis. I had sinus infections for pretty much 4 months straight. And I had a patch of skin on my ribs that had sort of lost pigment. It was like a white patch. It wasn't flaky or itchy or anything. It was just a part of my skin that had lost pigment. And it was getting bigger over the summer. I was very foggy and not very quick, and I was sneezing constantly, just all the time sneezing as if I had allergies. I was getting headaches. I was bloated all day, every day, pretty much. I would have sudden bouts of amnesia where a couple times I was driving and I just suddenly completely forgot where I was going, what I was doing, what my name was, what city I lived in. It was absolutely terrifying. And I would pull over and just cry. It would last for maybe 3 minutes, long enough for me to hold my phone and feel really panicked and not know what was going on. The inside of my ears were itchy. I had absolutely no libido, no interest, no sex drive. I would get extremely depressed. I would just wake up and start crying. And I have a history of being a very happy person. I, never was like clinically depressed in any way, and sadness would pass pretty quickly for me. And I was just crying all day, every day, and couldn't really handle that very well. It was really hard for me. It was just constantly constipation, diarrhea, back and forth in one day, sometimes both of them in one day. It was just, didn't make any sense. Obviously I was craving sweets and carbs really badly. Like my mouth would water thinking about a donut. And I had itchy skin on my legs. They would just start itching sometimes after I would eat certain things, and I couldn't quite figure out the pattern of what things. And obviously my immune system was terrible because I was getting sick all the time. And a bunch of other little things, but those were like the really concerning ones. So that was summer of 2018. So after that, I was like, I think I went to one more Western medicine doctor and said, cried to them, like, something is wrong with me. And again, they just said it's stress and sent me packing. And I remember leaving and saying, I'm never going to a doctor again for the rest of my life. So I decided to do the thing that you're not supposed to do and dig on the internet. And I had time. I could barely really get out of bed. I was very weak all the time because I was eliminating things out of my diet that I thought were upsetting my stomach. And I was just very weak and fatigued a lot. So I sat in bed all day one day and did a lot of internet research. And I'd remembered my naturopath at one point saying, it sounds kind of like you have Candida, but I don't think that's it. And so I just started there, and I thought, well, whatever that thing is she thought maybe I had, I'll look into that. And I started finding people's lists of symptoms, and I was like 99.9% of all of the symptoms, just checking all the boxes on all of them. And I just started crying because I thought, this is what I've got. And then I looked up the skin pigment thing and separately, and it led me to Candida as well. And so then I started looking for a specialist in the area that I could go to. I was willing to pay anything, to see the right person. And there isn't one here. I couldn't find anybody. I couldn't even find doctors that listed it in their things that they treat. So eventually, somehow I found the Eric Becker YouTube or website. I can't remember which one. And I wasn't convinced, I'm kind of a skeptic about things on the internet and people that have cures for things and whatnot, and I don't really go for that kind of stuff. And so I thought, well, I'm just gonna watch this person's YouTube, and just during the course of like a few days, I just had the YouTube channel running all day, and I would just listen to it while I was doing things. And it was mind-blowing because I realized, okay, I found somebody who knows what they're talking about, who knows what's wrong with me, and it was such a relief. Just thinking about it makes me emotional. But this was something I'd been dealing with for years, my whole life, basically. So I don't remember the exact order of things, but I ordered CanXIda, and I think I ordered 3 bottles of each. And how much to take and all of that and for how long is really ambiguous. And I felt like I had a pretty bad case. A lot of the peoples that I looked at just had, a lesser case than me, lesser symptoms or less intense. So I thought, great, I'm probably going to be after doing this for a long time. So I started taking them December in 2018. And within 1 week, every single symptom of mine was gone, except for I think 1 or 2, like the gas and bloating and maybe like the diarrhea, constipation or something. I don't remember. But every single other thing was gone in a week. And I was like up and moving and could go for walks and was smiling and laughing for the first time in like 6 months. And I was just like blown away, absolutely blown away. And then I knew that a harder point was coming, because I know that, you know, as the albicans die or however it goes, they release the 80 something toxins that make you feel all these terrible symptoms. So I knew that that was coming, but for the time I thought, okay, like this is it. I found it. And that did come. I think over the next, it was like 9 months, I was taking that stuff, and I think I was doing like, you know, I started small and then took more, and then would like stop for 3 weeks and then go back to it. I read on the website or something in one of his videos that was talking about that, and I followed those kinds of things as best I could. Those 9 months were really, really dark for me, because I had to do like the strong elimination diet to not eat carbs and sugar and, you know, all the other things. There's many things on there, starch and all that stuff, it was a lot of stuff that I couldn't eat. It was an extremely limited diet, and I was also eating like every meal was just eating anti-Candida foods. I mean, I worked up to it at first, but then, you know, did that, and I mean, I got all the symptoms, not all of them back, but most of them back very, very intensely for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. I was bedridden. I had just basically like really extreme allergy symptoms, just like constant like mucus and sneezing and eye watering and itchy skin, everything. It was just very, very intense, and I was extremely weak because I wasn't having any carbs or starch or sugar. So I was just like really weak. I remember I would go for walks around my yard with my partner, and he would kind of hold onto my arm, and we would just like walk around the yard for 10 minutes, and then I would be exhausted and go back to bed for the rest of the day. So I spent 9 months pretty much living in my bed. I had to quit my job. I quit my job, but it was a lot. And then 9 months passed, and I don't remember when it was, late spring or early summer or something, and I started to feel a little bit better. I was like reintroducing small amounts of things into my diet. So this is now last year, 2019. And I was reintroducing small amounts, and that was really tricky. You know, sometimes I would eat 2 spoonfuls of something that would absolutely destroy me and give me all of the crazy allergy symptoms and all bloated and all that stuff. And sometimes I could eat something a few times and before it did that. So that was a real guessing game. I ended up, you know, I had to get a job again. So I went back to work. I only worked 4-hour shifts a day for this other job. So that was good, because that was my maximum energy output. I was still really weak because I was still on a very limited diet. Did that, and now fast forward to now, which is, 2020, quite the year. And I'm still sort of on and off taking CanXIda Remove and Restore, the probiotics. So I'll take them for 2 or 3 months, you know, depending on how I've been feeling. That will kind of depend on the amount I'll take. And then I'll stop for a month or 2 or 3, and then usually symptoms will slowly start kind of creeping, and I'll say, like I just got some in the mail the other day, because I had been like more relaxed about reintroducing things into my diet, kind of trying to test it for once and say like, okay, let's see like how relaxed I can get with my diet, and let's see what happens, like to find out where I'm at, because that's the only way to find out where I'm at in progress. And I started getting upset stomachs and diarrhea and constipation and bloating and a little bit of sneezing, which I don't have any other allergies, so I always know that's what it is. So I'm taking them again now for a few months. And I mean, I'm not better at all. it's for sure. I still have an extremely limited diet. I still can't eat, I mean, I can't, not even a drop of sugar, no sugar in my diet, no sugary fruits, nothing like that, and very little carbs, and usually like brown rice or quinoa. Sometimes sourdough rye bread, but like very small amounts. So I still don't really get a lot of energy, and I'm a big backpacker hiker person, so and I was a circus performer before I got sick, 2018, so I had to quit that. I had to quit backpacking. I had to quit my whole life, basically, was physical. I was an athlete, and I'm not anymore, and that's difficult. But now I've started painting, so I do sort of, more calm recreation. And I do try to go on hikes and stuff now and then, but it's very tricky. I have to bring very particular foods and a lot of it, and be eating constantly and take a lot of breaks, because I still just don't have like a reservoir of energy, since I'm not constantly intaking carbs and have like a storage of it. And I don't really know where to go from here, but I do know that I am 1,000 times better than I was. And taking CanXIda has saved my life. I don't even know what would have happened to my health if I hadn't started taking it. So I really, really appreciate it. And I think that's it. I think that's the story. And I'm hoping to eventually be able to eat a donut someday. I would just like to eat one donut. Anyway, thank you for listening.